Just talk to us about the revenue drivers here. Who is wanting to get their hands on these charging stations across the United States?
Absolutely. So this space is on fire. As more and more states start to adopt provisions that say that internal combustion engines can no longer be sold past 2035, we're seeing an increasing emphasis on charging. And who's asking for it? You've got everything from municipalities to private ownerships to big real estate groups to state parks that want to have charging for new sport utility vehicles that are EV, and of course the federal government. We're very proud to have been one. The United States Post Office Service put out a bid for 45,000 chargers. We won part of that deal, and we've already begun to install those chargers with USPS. So the goal right now is to make sure that we can get as many chargers out there to service the EV buying public. And Blink right now, as you saw, we're on double-digit growth between last year and this year. And we see that trend continuing for the foreseeable future.
How does the US stack up versus Europe, Asia, Latin America? I know these are all markets that you're analyzing and in.
Yeah, so what you see in Europe is a little bit progression of the model. So they're much further ahead on both the car sales and the penetration of chargers in the public space. So US is following right behind that. So while they're a little ahead, we see ourselves as catching up. Now, a lot in Europe is policy driven to mandate charging and mandate the purchase of electric vehicles. We have some policy initiatives that make it easy to adopt. And then we have the federal funding for the NEVI program, the $2 billion from the Biden administration to accelerate infrastructure. So the U.S. is more show us, but I'll tell you, the auto OEMs, they're bringing out the cars. Today, you have some of the most versatile, sexiest, high-speed cars on the market that are all EVs.
What do you have, Brendan?
So I transitioned just recently out of an Audi e-tron, which is a beautiful car. Full EV all the way, but everything you expected in a luxury car. Now I'm looking at a couple different models, some domestic, and some made overseas as well. My goal in life is to always own a Mustang, so I'm not hinting that I might be in a Mach-E, but I'm definitely leading in that direction.
What about the inside focus on where you're buying, but what about the innovation that Blink's doing at the moment as well? Because, yes, it would be lovely, of course, to have the infrastructure there that we can all pull up and be able to speedily charge our cars. But what about if you're on the move? What about if you're breaking down? I know you had a whole host of different kind of options on array at CES this year.
Yeah, and absolutely. And what we want to do is service the plethora of charging needs for the public. And that means you got to have fast chargers on the highway that can fuel a vehicle in under 30 minutes, or in some cases under 15, depending on the speed of the battery. Then you also have to have home-based charging. When we look at McKinsey data, it tells us that 90% of the charging that's going to take place globally is what we call level 2 charging. And then the other 10% is going to be DC fast charging, which is the faster must-have charging. But also, as you pointed out, there's this need for what we call a rescue charger. So if you run out of charge, just like you run out of gas, we also have products to satisfy that market, so we can charge you up on the go and get you back to a charger as soon as possible. So our job is to cover the home, to cover the public, to cover the municipalities, and to cover the highway with charging, and make sure we have options and innovative products to serve the general needs out there.
Are you growing that and innovating organically, or I know that you make quite a lot of acquisitions as well? Do you want to do bolt-ons to be able to add that sort of level of offering?
Yeah, so we continue to be an inquisitive company. So where acquisitions make sense, we will pursue them. We just acquired a car-sharing company called Envoy, who basically has people engage with them on a car-by-car basis. They get it. They're all EVs. They get it for a day, for an hour, etc. They charge on our charging stations. And then we have Blue LA, which is our mobility program in Los Angeles. And under Blue LA, we have 200 stations that have 2 to 3 cars on them. And the general public comes in there, takes a car for a day, gets a chance to be in an EV, and they serve both the general public and the underserved communities simultaneously, and we do both the cars and the charging.
But Brendan, What's the regulatory environment for you for making these sorts of acquisitions at the moment? I know you're not a big cap player yet at the moment, but what are the concerns about making acquisitions of other companies?
Well, you have to make sure that these acquisitions, when we're looking at them, you have a high degree of synergies. If you don't, it doesn't make sense, because the acquisition in and of itself has to fit into our business models. If it doesn't, we're going to pass, because the synergies are what makes that very valid. And when you look at acquisitions in general and you benchmark other companies, you see where they failed was they didn't get the synergies. So we put a lot of money, we work with McKinsey to outline, set a path, and set a timeline associated to hit revenue synergies, G&A synergies, and then product synergies across the board. Without that, we're not going to do any acquisitions. We need that to be efficient and to really get to global scale.